Can't get enough Sports Shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.
Welcome, everyone, to Sports Shorts presented by LeBears Casino in Baton Rouge, now open 24/7, 365. And over at LeBears, exciting news, their rooftop pool is 21 and over. No rugrats running around, nobody spraying you in the face with those water guns. Go by there, great bar on top of the roof over at LeBears Casino if you're staying there, and go check them out. The casino is open. He's Glenn Gilbo, longtime sports writer. You can check him out, of course, at LSU Beat Tweet. And we'll have Chad Bluen on a little bit later on. He'll be entertaining to kind of give us his take on what's going on. But I'm calling this the apocalypse of college football. It is the end times as we know it. We've already, as we come on the air this afternoon on the 10th of August, that the Big Ten has announced that they're not going to have fall sports, period, which means no football, most importantly. We expect other conferences to follow. It's expected that the Pac-12 will follow as well with no fall sports. We're hearing that other conferences are on the bubble. We know the MAC conference has already canceled fall sports. We know many lesser conferences have moved to the spring for their fall sports. I mean, what is going on?
It's crazy, and it happened so fast over the weekend, and you know the SEC just came out with their new 2-game additions.
Yeah, we were all excited about the schedule last week.
Yeah, and I tweeted on Friday. I said it's amazing how football starved are we. We're all this excited about this, and they may never happen.
Right,
you know, games may never happen, and you know, I mean, I guess you could have an SEC only season.
Sure.
You know, I mean, they decide the national championship anyway. I mean, but I think it's just coming to a lot of people over the weekend just from reading Pat Forty and Ross Dellinger's story that, you know, they're just kind of looking back and saying, what are we trying to do here? It's such a difficult task, more so to try to have college football than the NFL or the pro sports, because there's much fewer people involved in the NFL as far as number of teams and so forth.
53-man rosters versus
and they don't have the whole
scholarship players.
They don't have the whole campus thing to deal with, you know. So I think maybe some college football leaders, conference leaders, athletic directors they're just really thinking about this. How can we really do this? And I think the number of cases you've been having in MLB is not really helping either. But you know, as of now, the SEC hasn't canceled. Neither has the SEC. But as they said over the weekend, by the end of the week, it'll all be done.
Is there a scenario, and of course the last domino to fall will be the SEC, right?
Probably so.
You know, that's probably the last conference. And if there was a conference that could sustain itself and maybe pick off a couple others, I mean, we're hearing reports, and again, these things change hourly, but we're hearing reports that the SEC wants to play, as of today, that the ACC and the Big 12 are wavering. They're waffling, but there are some schools within those conferences that feel like the SEC and want to play. We're hearing Texas and Oklahoma, for example, are a couple of those. You may have a scenario where it's a straw poll. Hey, what teams out there and what states out there want to fight through? It may not even be a conference thing at some point. It may become a just independent type deal. It was funny. Tulane put out last week that they picked up 2 non-conference games, one against Southern Miss and one against South Alabama. So Tulane, as of a few days ago, was acting like they're playing this year, and they're excited about their non-conference pickup games. It may become that where it's just, hey, are you playing? Are you playing? Let's put together a schedule.
It reminds me of Youth League All-Stars when you're practicing an All-Star team getting ready for the tournament and you call some other playground. Hey, you guys want to play? You're available?
Scrimmage game?
Yeah. Hey, Texas, you want to play after all? LSU. But you know, to me, it's just looking more and more like we may not have college football at all this fall. I'd hate to see it because you know, you'd like to see them start and at least try to see how it would go. But I really, if you tried college football, I think you would have to have no students on campus, all online classes, nobody going to the games, and just keep the players in quarantine and play for the TV money and try to recoup as much lost money as you could, because it's going to destroy, the economies, not necessarily Baton Rouge, because it's a more multifaceted economy, but the economies tied to college football are all over the place that are really small, like Auburn or Starkville or
Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson. So, but it would just be a terrible economic result.
The thing I don't understand is why the sense of urgency. If you could explain that to me, I don't understand the sense of urgency to go ahead here on August the 10th and cancel the season that we've already, talking from the SEC, pushed back to September 26th. That's a month and a half from now. And what we've learned throughout this whole pandemic is things can change so much in a month and a half, good and bad. And,
maybe they just overreacted. But it's a lot of people overreacting, and it's a lot of people with big jobs who have contact with more information than we do. I mean, commissioners of leagues and so forth. But you do see that. I remember after Katrina, people were saying, the Saints are not going to play this year, and we may lose the Saints and the Pelicans. I remember people saying that, people that were in sports and at the Superdome and so forth. So sometimes among times like these, people overreact a little bit, and it can change, but the numbers don't appear to be, the COVID numbers don't appear to be going down very much in the United States, so they are everywhere else, or almost everywhere else.
Well, the thing also is, and if you cancel the sports, you still have to pay the scholarships for these athletes. Okay, you're not kicking them out of school, so you're still going to house them, feed them, educate them, give them a stipend. Coaches are still going to get paid. So you still have all the expense minus, some transportation, some airplanes and some buses and some hotel rooms and some things like that. And sure, there's some support staff expense that you can get let go, but most of that's student workers at a lot of the colleges. My thing is, you still have probably, and this is just throwing a guess out there, 75% of your expense, at least, you're going to still incur. Coaches' salaries, scholarships, people working in the department. If you're going to have all that expense and zero revenue, this is going to destroy college football. Maybe not the LSUs of the world that can probably survive a one-year hiatus, but there's 20 schools out there, 30 schools that maybe can kind of consider themselves in the LSU-ish category. Everybody else is going to die on this. That's why I'm surprised, Glenn, the urgency to cancel right now. I would say hang in there as long as you can. I mean, what's there to lose with canceling the game a week before it's going to start? If you're going to play South Carolina at home, a la a hurricane, you cancel a few days before the game, nothing happens. I just don't understand why they're canceling now and not waiting until the 11th hour to cancel.
I don't know. Maybe because it's such a it involves all the teams. So many more teams than say a hurricane cancellation, and maybe they're doing it now so that they can try to plan a season for the spring.
Would there be spring?
I don't really know.
I don't know. I know that hasn't come out yet, and that just seems real
so
messy.
Weird. It would almost seem like it would be better to wait and start over next year. But some schools they can not lose as much money by not having the season. Like that's why the Ivy League canceled, because they don't make as much money.
Yeah, they don't have the big TV contract.
So they probably lose money on football. Like South Alabama, they probably lose money on football. Tulane too. So it's better for them, to cut out early and recoup their losses. I mean, who knows? But at LSU, schools like that, they're going to lose more by not having it, but they have the ability to recoup more. And I was thinking too, if they lose this season or lose some of this season, in the future, they ought to let them play a couple of more games. Like instead of a 12-game regular season, play a 14-game regular season. Bring in some of those non-conference. So that would be one way you can recoup it. But it's just such a crazy world right now.
Yeah, you say how everybody can add one game for the next decade or something to make up, for what they lost.
And maybe a spring game too.
Mm-hmm. If you had to, at this point, again, we're kind of just throwing a lot of things against the wall. when the schedule came out last week and you saw that, okay, LSU's going to add Missouri, they're going to add Vanderbilt to the schedule, in the back of your mind, did you get caught up in the momentum of the schedule and think, all right, here we go? Or were you think, there's just no way they're going to play?
Well, I did tweet out. I was amazed at all the interest, and we were so football starved that they're just announcing 2 games, and people were going crazy. You know, and I'm like, we might not even get to see the last 2 games.
Right.
I wasn't thinking we might not see any season, but I was thinking we might not get to game 9 and 10.
Right, sure.
But yeah, it shows you how starved people are, that there was so much excitement around those 2 games. And boy, what an easy schedule LSU got, so a lot of excitement.
So did Alabama.
Yeah. Well, no, but yeah, they got 2 nice additions, but Kentucky is better than Vanderbilt
sure.
or Missouri.
Sure.
Plus, they already got Georgia, whereas LSU already got South Carolina.
Right.
LSU's schedule is that especially when you look at all 3 from the other division, it's much easier. But maybe it's about time.
Sure,
they got a break. Yeah,
they would do.
Sure. But yeah, and that piqued some interest, and then the SEC was going to announce the dates and times of the games of the 10-game schedule either this week or next week. But now it looks like we may never get that announcement, but we'll see.
People we're not talking about all the other fall sports, by the way. The volleyballs of the world. I mean, where does basketball come into this whole thing? Who knows? I mean, I would think if you're canceling of all sports, that means you're not going to play basketball till probably the beginning of next semester. That hasn't really even been.
I've always thought basketball ought to be a 1-semester sport anyway. With the season
started after January 1.
Yeah, I've always thought that. So maybe that could happen.
Let December be the exhibition season or something like that. Yeah, not a bad idea, especially in these parts, right? But you're talking about it's affecting a lot of athletes, a lot of different sports. I'm assuming they're going to do like they did in baseball and give everybody an extra year, right, of eligibility. I mean, that would make sense to me. Now, the NCAA hasn't come out with that blanket policy yet, but if you're going to cancel football, you're going to get that extra year of eligibility, I got to believe.
I would think so. That's what they did with baseball, and the NCAA did come out with, if you opt out of a season like Neil Farrell did, the LSU defensive end, he stays.
Did he give a reason?
Scholarship. Yeah, his family was hit hard by COVID, is what he said. It wasn't specific, but and then he can file a waiver. So whereas next year he would still be a junior, plus he still has a redshirt year. So I would think the NCAA would bend along those lines. But gosh, everything we've heard is from the conferences themselves. We've heard nothing from the NCAA. It's almost like they don't exist.
Right.
It's ridiculous. And that's another thing that makes it easier in the NFL to have a season, because they have one governing body. Whereas college football has all these conferences and divisions, and nobody listens to the NCAA. So it's just a mess. So I think there's a better chance of us seeing NFL games than college.
I got to be honest with you, though. I'm okay with Mark Emmert and the NCAA not really having a say, because you got over 20 conferences geographically all over different parts. Everybody's got different financial models as well in those conferences. Like, I think it would have been, naive for the NCAA to make a decision, because, like you said, this at least leaves the door for some conferences that have the intestinal fortitude to push through and say, you know what, we're going to go forward, or we're at least not going to cancel yet. Like, I think if anything, the SEC may take the perspective of, we hear you Big Ten, we hear you Pac-12. We're monitoring, but right now we're not ready to call it a wrap. We're going to move forward. I talked to some folks that are in the building over at LSU over the weekend with the football team, and they were like, dude, if you were to see what we're doing, you'd think it was a year ago. Like, from the LSU football perspective, granted they're taking social distancing cues and masks at certain times and all that, but as far as the work ethic and the practice schedule and the hitting and the things that they're doing, they're moving forward as if the season's about to start.
Yeah, that's kind of their mindset, though. That they're kind of always like that. But it is good to see, because they've recognized the problem and they're trying to beat it. And I agree with you. I think it is the timing of this is a little early. And the Big Ten it seems like the Big Ten's trying to do things first.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Maybe it's an ego thing. Who knows? But. I definitely think the SEC would be last if they do this, And you still have time to hope that some of the COVID numbers go down.
Is it effective immediately, and does it mean no practice, no organizational stuff, or at least what you've been reading so far? I know it just kind of broke, but does it mean in the Big Ten there's no football activity whatsoever?
From the story I read in the Detroit Free Press, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
You know? But then Pete Thamel, who's excellent reporting, he's saying that the Big Ten hasn't voted, whereas the Detroit Free Press said they voted 12 to 2, the unnamed sources, which is
Right.
common in big stories like this.
Iowa and Nebraska supposedly being the two schools that said they wanted to play.
Yeah, and Pete Thamel says the Big Ten is still up in the air, but Ross Dellinger and Pat Forty of Sports Illustrated, they were the ones yesterday had a story quoting a guy saying by the end of the week it could all be over. So there is still somewhat of a conjecture end to some of the stories, though.
Well, this would be pretty incredible if indeed there is no football.
Could you imagine?
I mean, no LSU football potentially would be something else. I'm curious to see at this point the way it's reading, and again, we're all kind of knee-jerk reaction right now, but I'm curious to see if anybody plays, right? Like, I mean, is there going to be some holdouts? Is there going to be, if all the conferences do, in fact, cancel by the end of the week, which is what, again, Pat Forty and Ross Dellinger are kind of releasing, that their sources and their belief is that by the end of the week there will be no big-time college football being played this year. That gives you plenty enough time, right? That's August the 15th. You can then, will you have some defections? Will you have some rogue schools that say, not so fast. All right, if everything else is officially done, we're LSU. We're going to pick up, make our own schedule. Heck, 8-game schedule. It doesn't even matter.
We'll play the Saints.
Yeah, it doesn't even matter. It's about picking up paychecks. And hey, Texas and Oklahoma, y'all want to play? Okay, great. Clemson, Georgia, y'all want to play? And then just kind of throw together what might be an unbelievable schedule.
Well, the NCAA might suddenly show up if that happens. Who knows? But just uncharted territory. No telling what we might see.
He's Glenn Guilbeau. You can check him out. Give him a follow on Twitter at LSU Beat Tweet. We'll take a time out. We'll be back with more Sports Shorts presented by LaBerge Casino. Coming up a little bit later on, Chad Bluen will join us as well. Don't go anywhere.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau St. Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts presented by LaBerge Casino. Ronnie Rance alongside longtime sportscaster Glenn Guilbeau. Glenn, is there even a time in your career that that was crazy? I know nothing's as crazy as this, but is there a time, whether it was Katrina, 9/11, anything that resembles the craziness we're going through from your job
perspective? It reminds me of Katrina in a way, just the how strange it was that when the LSU game got moved over to Arizona State, and the Saints were playing those games in San Antonio. It's just really strange, but that was not nearly like this because it wasn't nationwide, It was an eerie feeling, and I remember going back to New Orleans after the storm when they were letting sections of town go back in and check on your places, and it was empty. It's like something out of a horror movie, and that's what this is going to be when you have all these empty fall stadiums. But the only thing that's close I can think of would be post Katrina, but this is nothing like that.
I feel bad. I mean, you feel bad for so many people during this time. You feel bad for these athletes because now it's affecting a full calendar year of athletes. It was just the spring, now it's the fall. But you've got, you can't, even if they give you an extra year, the things that the coaches are going to have to deal with. You're talking about 100+ players on a team. And I don't care if you got 100+ people working at an insurance company. Something's going to go wrong with one of them, right? And you've got all these guys with all this free time, nothing to do, nothing to keep them focused.
GPA might go up.
Yeah, it is going to be a strange fall for a lot of these athletes that have been used to this rigid structure, and here they are with nothing to do.
Well, I'm sure if there's no season, they'll come up. All the schools and coaches will come up with some kind of strength and conditioning plan, like 3 times a week or something, right. And just to kind of keep an eye on the kids and have them.
What if we had like a thrown together 7-on-7 Super League? Or
yeah, maybe so. Yeah, like no contact.
You saw the news that came out, the sad news that came out last week about former LSU running back Darius Geis, who turned himself in, was charged with some domestic violence charges. This is a guy who never really has gotten his NFL career going. He's battled injuries, it seems, every single year. But up until this point, hadn't had really any off-the-field stuff. He's been very vocal on social media that sometimes has gotten him in trouble one way or the other. But, for a guy whose story, was well-documented, the struggles he had as a youth, and looked like it was going to have a happy ending, this is not good for him. And in the day and age of domestic violence and the way things are,
especially with the Redskins.
We never heard of Ray Rice again after what happened with that video with him and his wife with the Redskins and everything. This could kind of be the end for him.
Well, hopefully he'll get another chance, but these are serious charges. And the problem I have with this story is that, Geis, there was a lot of bad news spread about Geis right before the draft, and he dropped to the second round
instead of a first.
And I thought a lot of that, and still do, was BS, because he was a wild child when he was at LSU, but it was never, he got in some fights or whatever. It was never anything serious, never anything like these charges, because when kids get arrested at LSU, we find out about it,
right?
And there were no major arrests or any arrests of Darius Geis. He might have got a break or two here and there, but and now, NFL writers that were on that story when Geis dropped in the round, they're saying, oh, yeah, you see, we were right. The NFL was right. Well, the NFL never knows what guys are good or bad. What happens is the agents of players who might have gotten picked after Geis or after Mettenberger, same thing happened to him, they spread these rumors and thus bring Geis down in the draft and bring Mettenberger down in the draft. And I think that's what happened. And now they're trying to say, oh, look, we're right. You see, Geis got arrested. No, I think they're two separate things. I don't think Geis was any issue.
Do we have
LSU.
any detail? Was his girlfriend, or do we know anything beyond just the charges?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I assume it was a girlfriend. And, Darius, I don't think Darius had a steady girlfriend when he was at LSU.
Right,
okay. Right. Tough thing for him. But you can't just assume he was bad before this. Okay,
Right.
this is a bad charge. You can't make this assumption that he was doing anything before it.
Well, you know, he's a guy who LSU fans were a big fan of and really supporting behind it. It's just in this day and age, you throw out the word domestic violence,
Right.
you know, it's like COVID. You know, I'm running for the hills, and with everything that's going on with the Washington football team, not the Redskins anymore.
And that's a good thing, really. You know, you shouldn't have ever been able to wipe domestic violence under the rug, which is what happened for decades.
You've been working on a project. We always like to get an update. You know, you're doing an autobiography on Skip Bertman, and I saw Skip and Roger Cador about a week and a half or so ago, both doing well, both antsy to get out and about like everybody else in the world. Give us an update of where we are on that project.
I've still got a ways to go. Lately, I've been busy with the LSU football and the COVID and the SEC scheduling, so there's been a little bit of a seventh inning stretch, if you will.
There you go.
Skip's getting a little impatient, but I'm going slowly and surely. I've been writing about. I finished a chapter on the national championship, which you were involved, and I've interviewed Armando Rios recently, which was awesome because I'm writing the '93 championship right now. The facade team, as Skip liked to call it, but
Because he feels like it wasn't probably the weakest of the 5 teams.
well, yeah, maybe, but it
Of the
finished
5 national
strong,
championship
and Soraka said the same thing.
Right.
They really had no closer
Right.
that season, and they were able to patch things together. Of course, now they did have 2 of the best hitters in the nation that year, in Walker and Russ Johnson, but it was it wasn't a balanced team, and they
Harry
had 2
Berrios
great
had a big year.
two great starting pitchers in Laxton and Soraka, but after that, there was a drop. But a very interesting team, and have not been able to get in touch with Eddie Davis, who hit the home runs against Soraka
From Long Beach State, Eddie Davis, right?
Yeah, and just a lot of interesting stuff there, and Rios had the big home run against Dryford. Well, his first major league home run, Darren Dryford.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, Rios had the big home run against Tyler Green,
Right,
in the '91 World Series,
Right.
The opposite field. When we beat Tyler Green, it was the first-round pick.
And I think he got a big hit against Dryford.
He got a big hit against Dryford in '93 to back up the middle, almost took his head off.
Right, and Dryford had some rough things to say about Rios after both games, '91 and '93. In fact, after the '93 game, Dryford said, "Oh yeah, Rios had a great hit. That's the last game he'll ever play."
Right, and of course Rios made it to the major leagues.
I think the only LSU player not drafted
to make
the major leagues.
Yeah, that's what people don't realize. Armando Rios was not drafted, signed as a free agent, didn't go in any of the 50 rounds that year.
Yeah.
Signed as a free agent, made it to the major leagues. If people don't know how hard that is, that's probably the hardest thing to do in sports. And and he's not like a big guy. He was a little guy, so he had to earn it. I mean, he had over 300 every year, every step of the way, and played well and had to be a good teammate, you name it. Made it and finally got up there to the Giants, played with Barry Bonds for a little bit. I mean, a pretty unbelievable story for him. And a self-made guy, no doubt about it. A transfer. He went to UNC Charlotte.
Exactly.
UNC Charlotte his freshman year, and then transferred to LSU. Randy Davis was who signed him at a Connie Mack World Series.
Another great story on him, if you got a second.
Yeah.
He was friends with Odell Beckham's mom.
That's right.
Who became a track star.
Great track athlete.
Right, and his she helped babysit Armando's little kid, and he babysit Odell Beckham Jr. I hadn't seen him since he was a little baby, and I said, "Well, how well did you know Odell?" And he said, "Well, I cleaned his diaper, or changed his diaper."
Changed his diaper. That's pretty awesome. And Armando living in Puerto Rico still?
He lives in Carolina, Puerto Rico.
Rico.
Right. Oh, Carolina.
Carolina, yeah. It's spelled like Carolina, but it's pronounced Carolina.
Right. That's where he's from.
One last thing before we let you go. What we know now, give me a percentage. You're a betting man, you go to the window in Vegas. What percentage does LSU football play, in your opinion? Do they play football this year? I don't care what it looks like, whether it's in the SEC or as an independent. Do we see Ed Ogeron run out under that tunnel between the goalposts with the LSU football Tigers this year, in your opinion?
Boy, Friday I would have said 80%. Today I'm saying 50%.
So it's a coin flip.
Yeah, yeah.
Unbelievable. And by the way, to this point, up until this point, August 10th, the Southland Conference is scheduled to start September 3rd. That's McNeese, that's Southeastern, that's Nichols, that's Northwestern State. Some of those are at the moment, they are starting September the 3rd. And let me tell you, if you're a conference like them or any conference that plays, payday city. Because if ESPN is, you're going to see McNeese on a Tuesday night, Nichols on a Wednesday, Southeastern on a Thursday. You'll make some money if you're willing to play. We'll see. We'll see if they do
exactly. The Vanderbilt will have more viewers than ever if the SEC plays.
He's Glenn Gobo. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Give him a good follow on LSU Beat Tweet. We'll take a time out. Chad Blue will jump in the chair, and we'll hear from him. Don't go anywhere. Sports Shorts presented by LeBears Casino.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts. Ronnie Rance alongside Chad Bluen. How are you, buddy?
My man.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Love you, brother. Good to see you.
Glenn Gobo, appreciate him stopping by, a longtime sportscaster. I mean, last Friday, like he mentioned, dude, I'm pumped.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the schedule. I'm like, LSU's got Missouri. They got Vanderbilt. We're going back to Nashville. Back-to-back years. That was a great trip. 80% of the crowd was LSU last year. I'm all excited. I mean, I'm thinking Tigers got a chance here to go 9-1, 10-0 on this schedule. And then all of a sudden, we wake up today on Monday, and it's like, forget 9-0, 9-1, 10-0. We might not have any.
Ronnie, it's scary. I mean, it's, I got to be honest with you. I'm panicking a little bit. I thought it was a done deal. I thought, no doubt, we would play some football. Might get to a place where maybe we got to postpone it. Maybe we got to stretch the season. Might have some hiccups on the trail ride. But I thought for sure we would at least see a couple of LSU football games. It seems to me that panic is setting in. I don't know if it was Mr. Gilbo or you that brought up the point earlier. The NCAA has no direction. They don't have a king. NFL's got a king. The NBA's got a king. And now what you've got is you've got 10 kings, which means you've got no kings. And so it's interesting. I got a hard time believing, and I may be wrong, but I got a hard time believing the SEC shuts it down. Ronnie, the passion, the conviction down here in these parts.
The money
down here, I got a hard time believing they shut it down. Look, I ran some numbers a while ago while you and Mr. Gilbo were talking. As of right now, there have been 5 million cases of that God forbidden word, coronavirus, in the United States of America. Out of that 5 million, we've had 162,000 beautiful Americans have lost their lives to that virus. Out of that 162,000, roughly 70% were elderly people. I'm a numbers guy, or at least I've become one recently. The numbers don't lie. Look, when you make a decision, just my opinion, when you make a decision, you have to rely on numbers. The mortality rate for this disease, in particular for kids under 22 and under, is decimal 0.02. Now that all sounds cute and dandy until it's your kid that dies, and I get all that. But the numbers just don't suggest a reason for panic. We've had a couple of universities who've had 30. LSU, I believe, had how many in quarantine? 14, 20, something like that. Those kids did just fine. So, look, I went back and looked up some other numbers just so we could compare them. Last year, you had 56 million cases of the flu in America, the United States of America. That's a fact. You can look up yourself, CDC. We had 60,000 deaths. You see what I'm saying? We didn't shut down the football season. It's easy for me to sit up here and say that because, again, all it's going to take is one kid getting the COVID, and the parent of that kid, I would feel, but I just don't see there's any way they don't give it a try. I mean, I love the way you put it so eloquently. What's the rush? Let's give it a chance. If it doesn't work, guess what? We tried. Mm-hmm. But if it does work, we're saving 75% of our revenue. Otherwise, that would have been flushed down the toilet. The economic effects down the road, we won't feel them yet this year, but down the road, in the next couple of years, you shut down a whole football season, Ronnie, devastating to a lot of programs.
It's, and again, you don't want to be callous to what you're saying. People are dying from this. Even numbers-wise, it is worse than the flu. But at some point, we cannot just stay inside the rest of our lives. Financially, we can't. Physically, we can't. Mentally, we can't.
No.
We cannot do that, okay? So because of that, you have to take steps to live with it because it's not going away.
No.
It is not going away.
No, great point.
And the other thing, too, is that you talk about there not being a king in college football. There's not a king in our country, right? That's how we're set up. There's a president. But within a president, there are governors, there are mayors,
sure,
there are school superintendents, school boards, and nobody is on the same plan.
No.
This state does this parish does that, this city does that. I mean, there are high school football not being played, not even practiced right now in certain parishes. But in other parishes, they're full bore. Their helmets on, they got drills, they're running plays right now. So if we can't even figure out as a society
uniformity,
then it's never going to make the impact that we want it to make.
Yeah,
let's just go with wear masks.
Yeah,
you know what? Let's just go with everywhere you are, you wear a mask unless you're sitting 6 feet away from somebody, or you're outside.
Look, I bowl my kneecaps off. I love to bowl. You didn't know that either. I'm a softball player as well.
How about that?
But I bowl, and we
What's
bowl.
Your average?
180.
Are you a 180 bowler?
I'm a 180 bowler.
For real?
For real.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and a lot of practice, a lot of hard work, a lot of free time too. With the fire.
Lefty, righty?
Righty.
Okay.
Righty. But we bowl, and it's a beautiful thing. We get together every Wednesday. Our league does, and we've got a lot of elderly people in our league as well. But hey, we all wear masks. The only time we can take the mask off is when we step up on the runway, and particularly if you wear glasses like I do, it can fog them. Mm-hmm. You can take the mask off, and you get up there and you bowl, man. I've already been in a couple of tournaments. I'm talking massive amounts of people in the bowling alley, and you know what the outbreak's been?
Zero.
None. We've had no issues. None. As a matter of fact, in Pensacola, where it's as bad as it's, I mean, Destin, where's the big tournament there last week? You know how many times they tested my temperature? None. You know how many times you wore a mask? None. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. The uniformity is not there.
It's not there, and because we live in a country where our president, to use your term, when I mentioned kings, I was being, but we live in a country where not even our president can issue an executive order to make your state shut down and wear a mask. So, that's the problem with a democracy sometimes, man. When you got a democracy, you can do what you want,
And because of that, I go to, there has to be a reasonable way to deal with this and get back to playing football, get back to living our lives. There has to be common sense.
Sure.
And first off, hey, can we just agree on one? What do we want to agree on? Okay, we can agree on wear masks in public, when you're not outside, when you're walking in the restaurant, going to the bathroom, but when you're sitting down and eating, you can come up with something we can agree on. Then let's go to the next thing. What's the next thing we can agree on? Oh, sanitizer everywhere, blah, 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 blah. And then we just have to go with it. We have to go with it.
We wear those masks, Ronnie, while we bowl. It's so uncomfortable, man.
Right.
Honest to God. It is not something I appreciate.
Right.
But I'm so cognizant of the individuals next to me who are 55, 60, 65, 70 years old.
Right.
My concern is them.
Right.
Otherwise, if it was just me, you, and a bunch of dudes, I'd be out there ripping it. Because the reality is I said these numbers earlier.
It's so low percentage if anyone under 50, 60 years old is going to get it and die.
Guy on my softball team caught the virus. 55 years old, healthy as a bee today, Ronnie. Said he went through a couple of nights where he had a high fever, and other than that, did just fine. That story is being played out 98.5% of the time. Somebody catches the virus.
Right.
The mortality rate is somewhere between that 1.5 and 2% rate. Then if you start looking at the numbers and the ages and all those things, so to me it seems so, it doesn't seem that complex. And again, you don't want to come off as obtuse or not caring or these other things. But look, these kids at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old that are getting this stuff, it's nothing but a pimple. It's nothing. Matter of fact, it's probably less than what the flu is.
Right.
In some cases. It's a tough situation, man. But like I said, we have to, at some point, they're going to have to let us out the house and let us play. Mm-hmm. At some point. Mm-hmm. I don't know when that point is. Mm-hmm. I think we're trying to do it now. But, man, you cancel football season. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of lives being affected. Forget about the football kids. The financial effects around the LSU campus. Just think about that. The financial effects right there,
sure.
All throughout.
Hotels, restaurants, Uber drivers, bars, you name it.
You sell LSU gear.
Yeah, merchandise sales.
It's just,
yeah.
So why not
airlines, buses,
yeah.
You name it. Right.
Why not give it a chance, like you said?
Right.
And if
here we are, August the 10th, the rush to cancel. And again, I'm waiting for the aha moment. I'm saying I don't know. I want someone, from the SEC or LSU or the NCAA or even if a fan out there knows, go to sports_shorts and tell me. I don't understand. I don't understand the urgency to cancel. I know I keep beating that drum, but I don't get it. Why? Because you're going to have all the same expenses of scholarships and coaches' salaries and the secretary and the equipment manager. Greg Stringfellow's still getting paid, and Jack Marucci and the trainers are still getting paid.
Yeah.
You got all this expense minus some travel expense when you go to those 5 away games. That's the only thing you're saving. So because of that, why don't we cancel? If we're going to cancel, why don't we cancel the week before the first game?
Yeah, as you said earlier too, these kids are way better taken care of than you and I are.
Right.
They're getting tested every other hour. Right. So it's not like we're not taking all the necessary precautions. The one variable that you can't control, and I think the biggest fear is control, but the one variable you can't control is, and you're a college athlete, and I know you know how this works. Hey, Ronnie Rance and the boys, the baseball team, hey, we're doing all the right things. We're not going out. We're not going chasing. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. But, the unfortunate thing is you're dorming in the same dorm with 13,000 other kids who could care less about college baseball, who could care less about if Ronnie Rance catches the virus, who could care less. That's the one variable that I think scares the college football programs, to me. That's their biggest fear.
Right.
As the other kids not caring and the other kids not adhering to those rules. To me, that's a simple fix.
Right.
Everything online.
For the athletes.
Yeah.
You could say, hey, if you want to play, you're going to take online classes.
Yeah. That's a simple fix. Or you tell the whole school, hey,
if you want to play NCAA.
Ronnie, you mean to tell me you're not willing to risk some guys playing football, right? But you're all willing to bring 50,000 kids on campus in a classroom setting and have school. And you're telling me that their chances aren't any greater of getting the coronavirus?
Well, they're different in the sense that, the governing body and the people we're talking about, are completely different than the students. I think you're going to see a lot of students opt for the online classes. You're going to have a lot of professors that are going to say, I ain't teaching, I'll do it online.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be...
Why can't they do that anyway? Why can't we be uniform on that?
Because they want those dorms full. They want those cafeterias full. I mean, think of the money.
It's the money. Okay.
I mean, now, if you're LSU Athletics, you're a self-sustaining governing body. You're not taking a dime from the state of Louisiana, taking a dime from the academic side. In fact, the last bunch of years, they've gave money to the academic side. If LSU's self-sustaining, then the academic side is the academic side. They need those dorms full. And believe me, as a father of a 20-year-old who's going into her junior year at LSU, now she doesn't live on the campus, but she was actually supposed to stay in the sorority house this coming fall. Since pulled her out and put her in a rent home because they've already shrunk the amount of time you can be on campus, right? They're pushing back school a couple weeks. They're making school end at Thanksgiving as opposed to going into December. So she was going to have to pay the same amount of money for her dorm for, say, August, September, October, November, into December, that is now just September, October, November.
Right.
Same amount of money. So the schools are wanting the money. Dorms and food bills and all that kind of stuff. They need that revenue.
My son and daughter, my ninth grade daughter started high school today. Sarah's so proud of her. And then my Cullen, he's a junior out there at Dutchtown. Hey, they went to school today. Again, where's the difference? I mean, I know
that's the uniformity that we talk about that's not out there in society. And Pensacola does this, Baton Rouge does that, Alexandria does this, Shreveport does that, and yet
that's a great point.
And yet we're trying to look at the number. Well, the numbers aren't going to be affected to the point we want them to be affected unless we're all rowing in the same direction.
We're not going inside of that bowling alley down there at All-Star Lanes. I give them a free plug. I love them. All-Star Lanes. You do not get in that house if you have a temperature at all.
Right.
Everybody that runs through there, deep. Okay. Hey, I love that. I go to Dollar General. Ain't nobody at the door beeping me.
Right.
I go to Walmart. Ain't nobody at Walmart beeping me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can't. You say, well, you want to control but it's just like you said. It's just it's a crap show, man.
It's insane.
It's a crap show full of a lot of inconsistencies and there's no uniformity. And as I sit here right now with you, noticing that, it really brings it to the forefront.
Right.
It's really disturbing.
Look, I mean, I was visiting with my family this weekend that live in Lafayette, Louisiana, and my dad is 71 years old, just had his 71st birthday. We're at my brother's house. My dad's in his 70s, my mom's in her 60s. I got my brother's in his 40s, my sister's in her 30s. They've each got 3 kids. They all got spouses. We're all there, and we're hugging and kissing and visiting and being with family, because at the end of the day, look, if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down with my people. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, hey, Dad, over in the other room wearing a mask and I can't go give him a hug. It's ridiculous.
Fascinating here. The guy that caught it, it was actually our pitcher. It really hurt us, man. He set us back 2 weeks. But he slept in the same bed with his wife, and she didn't get the virus. You explain that. I mean, it's...
Now, I've got a couple buddies been in the hospital, and their spouses didn't get the COVID.
Yeah,
their kids didn't get the COVID.
I think the one thing you and I agree on that needs to be agreed upon, whatever it is uniformity.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're going to go in Dollar General, you should take your temperature. If you're going to go in All-Star Lanes, because if not, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul.
We'll take a break. We'll come back with Chad Bloom. We'll talk a little bit about this Darius Geis story that broke. New Orleans Saints, will they play? I mean, we're talking college football so much because we know that the Big Ten is canceling their season, and we expect other conferences to fall. We'll continue our conversation with Chad Bloom. Don't go anywhere.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Welcome back, everyone, to Sports Shorts. Ronnie Rance, Chad Bluen. This is presented by LeBaer's Casino. This is Sports Shorts. We had Glenn Guilbeau on a little bit earlier. The news came down this morning. I called Glenn because it's like, wait a minute. College football as we know it may be canceled for all of 2020. We know the Big Ten and other conferences have canceled it. Last week, right before the weekend, the MAC, Mid-American Athletic Conference, was the first Division I football conference to say they're not playing fall sports. Now the Big Ten, and we expect the Pac-12 and others to follow. The SEC, as we tape this show on August the 10th, has not made a decision. We know that they are adamant about playing at the moment.
I'm going on record. They play at least one football game at Louisiana State University.
LSU plays at least one.
At least one. They get it. They give us at least one.
Well, here's the thing that I'm, as we're just kind of spitballing things and figuring it out, I would not be shocked if you see, because again, this is August 10th, plenty of time for schools to alter things.
Sure.
You may see some schools go rogue. You may see some schools say, you know what? I'm Nebraska, I'm Iowa, I'm in the Big Ten, I wanted to play football. Yeah, you know what? Okay, but we're gonna go play football.
You know what I realize now that I never knew before? The NCAA has zero power. They have zero power.
But when it comes to football, they truly don't, because they don't control football.
But you think about all the the sanctions that we were under. Remember with Dale Brown and we got all that. They have no power. They really have no power. If they had power, they'd be putting their foot down right now. They've got nothing, and it's and I'm with you. I don't think they should have anything, but
I would feel better about LSU's chances of playing football this year if John Bel Edwards wasn't the governor of our state. He is kind of gone.
But him and Ogeron are thicker than thieves.
But he and more than Ogeron, he and Richard Lipsey are super tight. Richard Lipsey, one of the main reasons Scott Woodward's the AD, and he was the head of John Bel Edwards' transition team when he was elected governor, and he's a huge donor for LSU athletics. That there is going to be some big pressure for him to play. Politically, though, it would say that they wouldn't play.
Yeah.
So you got a Democratic governor who's kind of fallen in line with the Democratic the way of party of dealing with this COVID. So for him to have LSU play would go against that political side. So
you got me dropping my percentage, right?
It's interesting.
I was guaranteeing it.
No, I can't guarantee it. Now, I want to talk Darius Guice for a minute. Darius Guice, in your opinion, will we ever see him play again in the NFL?
Never.
Wow, that's strong.
Yeah, and again, I don't know all the facts. I'm certainly not. Let me retract that if I can. I need to take a step back. Providing that what we have, the arrests that have occurred is truth, and he's found guilty in the court of law. The sensitive nature already of domestic abuse, not just in football, across the country.
Right.
This guy might get a shot in the CFL or some other league, but there's no way I think he gets a shot. And it's sad because Darius Guice, from an effort standpoint, guy is one of the best running backs to ever put on a football uniform at LSU. He gave you max effort, did a lot of great things. A doggone knee injury got him, I think it was last year. We were excited. He was doing some good things, and I don't think he does. Hey, maybe it's not true. Maybe he's found innocent.
So he had 3 different incidents,
Yeah.
3 different charges, one in February, one in March, one in April.
Yeesh.
So that's the thing. It's not like there was just one thing that happened one time, and it's a he said, she said. There's 3 alleged incidents that happened that now he's being with 3 different charges for.
I'm giving point 1 maybe.
So much better chance LSU playing this year than Darius Geis playing.
Before we get out of here, Ronnie, biggest loser with shutting down the LSU football season or college football. Biggest loser.
Which team?
Whoever.
The biggest loser for LSU football shutting down this year, just the economy of Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that's the thing. The money.
I mean, the economy of Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
You're already talking about a university in LSU that's given over $70 million. The athletic department's given over $70 million to the academic side in the last 10 years. Imagine if they had that 70 in the bank.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't have it because they've been a great partner to their institution.
The tentacles of that money that goes in the Title IX sports, softball, things of that nature, some of these other things. I wonder how many of those will even exist.
Well, the problem with Title IX is that whatever you do for the boys, you got to do for the girls. Yeah. So if you can't just say we're going to whack all these sports and just have football. Yeah. If you whack, you got to have. You got women's basketball is the equivalent to men's basketball, but there is no equivalent for football. That's the problem with the whole formula. Yeah. So you got football, you're going to have 3 different women's sports.
Your prediction. We got 30 seconds left.
I do not think that there's going to be a college football season.
Yeah. God, I hate you, Ryan.
I do not, and I've said that for a couple months now. And they just can't get their head around this thing. There's too many people that are scared. This is a litigious society. I'm
going one game, man. I'm sticking to one game, man. We get at least one. We get at least for one, man. Come on, Ronnie, give us one.
The biggest winner,
just to get the
single
rings,
females,
just to get the ring
in Baton Rouge between the age of 40 and 60, because Coach O's single and he ain't got a football season.
Good stuff.
Because he's Chad Bluen. Give him a follow. Where can folks
King of the Tiger Nation on Facebook.
King of the Tiger Nation on Facebook. Thanks to Glenn Gobo. Have a great week, everybody.
If you're an avid sports fan, then you need to check out the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, located in historic downtown Natchitoches, next to the Chateau Saint Denis Hotel and the Natchitoches Convention Center. The Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame is where the rich history of Louisiana sports is told through the pictures, artifacts, and by the legends themselves in video archives. Come to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame and Northwest Louisiana History Museum and visit a world-renowned architectural marvel. For more information and to purchase tickets to the annual Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame events, visit lasportshall.com/purchase.
Can't get enough sports shorts? Tune into Sports Shorts TV on Cox HD Channel 1013 Mondays at 8, Tuesdays at 9, and ETEL Channel 4. That's 52 weeks a year to get educated on sports by the best. Joel Davis and Ronnie Rance.